It all started with a text message. A wrong number, I thought at first. It was a simple message. Come to this location now. You'll find what you're looking for. Below the message was a set of coordinates. I stared at my phone, a chill crawling up my spine. The coordinates pointed to a remote location, miles outside the city. Against my better judgment, I decided to go. That was the plan, at least. The drive was long and desolate. The sun began its descent, casting long, eerie shadows across the winding road. The further I drove, the more isolated I felt. The world outside my car window was a blur of fading light and unfamiliar terrain. Doubt began to creep into my mind. What was I doing? This was foolish, reckless even. The coordinates on my phone were like a beacon, drawing me towards the unknown. The GPS announced my arrival. I pulled over, the silence deafening after the constant hum of the engine. This was the place. Ahead through the trees, I noticed a faint light. With hesitant steps, I moved towards it, my heart pounding in my chest. As I drew closer, the silhouette of a small, dilapidated cabin emerged from the darkness. Its wooden walls were weathered and worn, and the windows were dark, like empty eyes staring back at me. A sense of dread washed over me. This place felt wrong, tainted with an unseen menace. Cautiously, I approached the cabin. The front door creaked open with the slightest touch, as if inviting me inside. The interior was dark and musty, the air thick with the smell of decay. Despite the eerie atmosphere, I felt strangely compelled to stay. With a growing sense of unease, I decided to stay put until morning. I gathered some firewood from the porch, surprised to find it dry and brittle despite the dampness that permeated the air. The fire crackled to life, casting flickering shadows that danced across the walls. As the hours crawled by, the silence of the cabin was broken only by the crackling fire. Fear, like the shadows from the fire, twisted my thoughts, amplifying every creak of the floorboards. I kept imagining things in the periphery of my vision, my mind playing tricks on me. Sleep was impossible. The night stretched on, an eternity of anticipation and fear. As dawn approached, painting the sky with hues of gray and purple, I decided to explore the cabin. Perhaps there was a clue, a message, anything that could shed light on the reason I was brought here. Underneath a pile of dust-covered books on the rickety table, I found a small leather-bound journal. Its pages were yellowed with age, the ink faded but still legible. With a mix of trepidation and curiosity, I began to read. The words chronicled the experiences of a man who had come to this very cabin seeking solace. He wrote of strange occurrences, unsettling dreams, and a growing paranoia that something was watching him. The last entry in the journal was abrupt. Cut off mid-sentence, it simply read, "It's here. I can hear it." Whatever happened to this man, whatever drove him to madness, was still here. Suddenly the lights flickered and died, plunging the cabin into darkness. I froze, my heart racing. I fumbled for my phone, its screen a beacon in the sudden darkness. The battery icon blinked red. Low power. Panic surged through me. I was trapped in this isolated cabin with no way to contact help. The words from the journal echoed in my mind. "It's here. I can hear it." I stumbled around in the darkness, searching for a flashlight, a candle, anything to pierce the oppressive blackness. Fear, primal and consuming, tightened its grip on me. The darkness was absolute, suffocating. I felt my way along the walls, each creak of the floorboards sending shivers down my spine. Every shadow seemed to writhe. Every rustle of leaves outside sounded like approaching footsteps. My senses were on high alert, my body poised for flight. The silence was broken by a soft thud from upstairs. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. Another thud, closer this time. They sounded almost human. With a deep breath, I began to climb the stairs, each step heavy with trepidation. The stairs creaked under my weight, each step echoing in the oppressive silence. My hand trembled as I reached the top of the stairs, my fingers brushing against something cold and metallic. I fumbled for my phone, using its dim light to illuminate the darkness. In my hand, I held a rusty old lantern. It was empty, the wick long gone, but it was better than nothing. I continued down the hallway, my heart pounding in my chest. With a deep breath, I pushed the door open, my phone held out like a talisman against the darkness. The room was empty. Moonlight streamed through a boarded-up window, casting long, eerie shadows across the dusty floor. The thuds had stopped. I scanned the room, my heart still pounding in my chest. There was nothing there. Relief washed over me, followed by a wave of exhaustion. I had been so caught up in the fear, in the anticipation, that I had let my imagination run wild. As I turned to leave, I noticed something on the floor in the corner of the room. Suddenly, a floorboard creaked behind me. I spun around, my blood turning to ice. Standing in the doorway, bathed in the pale moonlight, was a figure, tall and gaunt, its features obscured by the shadows. I stumbled back, my phone slipping from my grasp and clattering to the floor. The screen went dark, plunging me into absolute darkness once more. The figure took a step closer, its form becoming clearer in the faint moonlight. It was human, or at least it resembled a human. It was then I realized the most terrifying thing of all. The figure had no face. Where its eyes, nose, and mouth should have been, there was only smooth, featureless skin. It was a blank slate, a void staring back at me. The figure lunged at me, its arms outstretched. I screamed, a primal sound of terror that echoed through the empty cabin. I threw my hands up to protect myself, bracing for the impact, but it never came. I opened my eyes, my body trembling, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I was lying on the floor of my bedroom, sunlight streaming through the window. Had it all been a dream? A horrific, vivid nightmare?